Hello, I hope that you can hear me. Welcome to Money Magic, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I want to go over a few things that I think will really help you as future college students and as parents to know where your money's going rather than wondering where it went, and also to communicate about money. So let me get started. My name is Dr. Marianne Campbell. I'm a certified financial planner and I teach at the University of Central Arkansas. And today I'm on the campus of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock, which has a wonderful entrepreneurial department and a small business and technology development center where I'm using their computers. So anyway, welcome and let's talk about College Week Live. First of all, I want to say that ask you a question. How many of you have had money that's burning a hole in your pocket? Have you? Have you ever had that? Well, being that I am a female, it actually burns a hole in my pocketbook. Yes, it does. And if we can get this going here, it does. And if I'm not very careful, that money can go up actually in smoke. Now, I'm here today on College Live to help prevent that from happening to your money. So let's talk about the fact that the magic actually comes from you and you can do it. The great thing about using your magic is that you will be rewarded for using your magic, and these little tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you will really make a big difference in your financial life and in the fun that you can have in college, because that's what college is about. It's about growing up, it's about making friends and having a good time, and you don't want to be stressed out or worried about your money. So let's talk about the first thing that's important to do is to get to know who you are. And these are the things we're going to talk about in this next brief hour that we have together. Who are you? What do you want? What do you want in life? Know the basics of personal finance. And then the biggest one is, what are you willing to do to achieve what you really want? And that's the effort that you're going to put out. Now, my objectives for today, that you'll get to know more about yourself, what's important to you, that you will understand that the digital revolution has made a wonderful difference in personal finance. It's really what I call level the playing field. And that there are several people that you can trust in that are in the financial arena, but you kind of need to know who those people are, because there's a lot of people who want your money, who want to separate you from the money in your purse or your wallet. So you need to be careful with that. And then that I want you to follow your passion. You're going to college to improve your education, to find out what field you will be in. Some of you already know, but many don't know until after you've been there a year or 2 years and you meet other students and you see other departments and you say, hey, I thought I was going to go in this direction, but no, I'm not. I'm going to go in another direction. So it'll be really exciting when you find and begin to follow your passion. Don't worry about it if you don't know what it is yet, because it will come to you. Um, what happens right now this month? Last month, it just happened, March. This is April, of course. But what happened last month in the world of sports? Well, the big thing that happened is basketball, and it's called March Madness. Let's see, the men's finals, the Final Four was first. Now, where was that held? Well, it was held in a stadium that we know about in Arkansas, because Jerry Jones is from Arkansas and he built the wonderful stadium there. So it was held in Cowboy World. And who won that? Can you remember who won the Final Four in the men's division? Well, the University of Connecticut. UConn won that wonderful match. And then there is a women's Final Four for basketball, and that was held in Nashville, Tennessee. It was held right after the men's was. Now, can you remember? Do you know who won that? And go ahead and use and send me messages anytime as I'm presenting. If you have any questions or if you have any comments, go ahead and log in and put them up on the chat and I'll see those. But at any rate, yes, it was University of Connecticut, UConn, as they call it. So UConn did a very unusual thing. They won. Now, actually, those women won last year as well. The University of Connecticut won the women's Final Four. But it's an exciting thing. Well, financial planners looked at this, the fact that there's so much excitement in March and March Madness. They said, you know what, it'd be fun to do. It'd be fun for us to do a financial four in the month of March. So they created what they called March Madness about money. And where the Financial Four for basketball has like 68 brackets, they took and made the topics of personal finance, all the topic of insurance and budgeting and saving and all of those things, and they put them into 34 brackets instead of 68. And they went, there's an organization called the National Endowment for Financial Education. We call it NEFI. And they also took another organization called the Financial Planners Association, and they had asked all the teachers, the educators, the financial planners, registered investment advisors, all the people that work, insurance agents, to go online and vote for the Financial Four. And what do you think they came up with? What do you think they came up with that were the top 4 things that would help people be stable financially? Well, they came down, they boiled it down from all of those 34 sections, and here's what they came to. They said, okay, the top financial 4, the number 1 thing, you need to live within your means. That means don't spend more than you make. Don't spend more than your allowance for college, or that if you're working while you're going to school, make sure that you keep the ends meeting. And of course, they say just about the time you get the ends to meet, somebody moves the ends, and that happens a lot in budgeting. The second thing they said was really important. All of these teachers, educators, financial planners weighed in on this. And they said, number 2, make sure you have adequate insurance. That means if you're a young person and you drive a car, you need liability insurance that pays for an accident that you would cause, but it pays someone else for damage or medical needs. But at any rate, insurance is really important. So renter's insurance, medical insurance, disability, health, all of those things, and particularly automobile insurance. The third thing that is one of the most important things to make you secure financially is to have an emergency fund. This is so important because an emergency fund really is what keeps you from going into debt by going and getting money that was going to cost you a lot. What do people do? When they have an emergency, oftentimes they will go and use their credit card, and their credit card will have a very high interest rate. So the emergency fund is the third thing. And what do you think is the last of the final 4 that will really make you important financially? It is not being bogged down with debt. There is negative debt that would be like on credit cards and very expensive things, or too much student loans. Student loans are wonderful. I certainly couldn't have gone to college without my own student loans, and it took me a full 10 years to pay them back. I'm very grateful to have had them. But today we have a lot of credit card debt of things you've already used. You've already eaten, you've already done it, and then you're still paying on it. You're paying a high interest rate on it. So when people get saddled by that debt, and particularly when college students graduate with both their student loan debt and their credit card debt, it takes them so long to pay it back. It sets them back almost 10 years right after they graduate, because it takes them that long before they can start saving to buy the home that they want and the other things that really make them sound financially. So that's the other thing to think about. As well, we want to think about now who you are. The reason I use the textbook I use on our college campus at the University of Central Arkansas is because he talks about values. I use the Walker and Walker Personal Finance textbook that's published by McGraw-Hill. And the Walkers are a married couple. And Dr. Walker said that, they just feel like that if people think about their values and what they value, and they set their goals upon that, and they create their life around that, then they're going to do so much better financially and in the happiness department as well, because they don't let someone else set those values, set those goals. So what are your values? I want you to think about that today. And values would be, do you value products? Do you value people? Time? Do you value your time? people like music, particularly young people. And I know that you value graduation and education. And I'm so glad that you're viewing this today, because that means that you really do want to learn about the ways that you can manage money and have a good time at the same time. So values are real important. And then it's important to have a vision. Not only have the values, and the vision needs to match that, needs to be realistic, but you're painting a picture of what you want to do, where you want to be, and that vision helps you stay on target with what you're doing and why you're there, and how you're managing the money that you would manage it. It'll define your purpose in life. Having that vision says, okay, this is what I know I want to be. Now, some of you already know, you know exactly what you want to be. Others are saying, I'm not so sure. I'll have to think about that. I'll really have to think about that. But at any rate, you want to make sure that you have your vision and you are connected to your values. Now, the next thing to think about is your mission. So you see out there what you want to do, and that's when your mission begins to gel. And that says, this is what I want to do. And a lot of young people today I see are so involved with volunteerism and the ways to really help others. And that's the way you grow as well. So you want to clarify what your mission is by looking at what you're thinking about. So it'll help you reflect on your strengths, your passions, your gifts, and the other stakeholders going to help you get there. So the next thing to think about is, what do you really want? Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this adorable movie. It's called The Bucket List. And if you haven't, go to Redbox or Hulu or Netflix or wherever you use the service to get your movies and rent The Bucket List, because Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman play characters that end up in the same hospital room. And they realize that they're given a diagnosis that they're each terminal. And Morgan Freeman has a list of things that he wants to do before he kicks the bucket, as they say. And so, fortunately, Jack Nicholson has the money to go do that. So they go on this grand adventure, and it's a cute, sweet movie, but it also brings home a really important point, that you need to think about the top 10 things that you would like to do before you leave this earth, before you kick the bucket. So write those down. If you share your financial life, parents, with somebody else, have each person write those down and compare them. As young people, it's important. A lot of times you haven't thought about, what would you like to do? If it's learn a language, travel to somewhere, create something, what are the things that are on your bucket list? And then you want to make sure that you link those after you've thought about the big things you want to do. That's when I have students write their financial goals, because financial goals make they make sense after you've thought about the big broad picture of what you want to do. So write your financial goals and break those down to short term, medium term, and long term. And then it's important, like I said, one of the areas to cover is insurance. You want to insure for the really big stuff, not the small stuff. You also want to make sure that you prevent financial catastrophes. And that's why you have to have liability insurance if you drive a car. You want to buy direct if possible, because the wonderful thing about the internet is that it has leveled the playing field when you shop for things like insurance. You can find good quality companies with good coverage, and you're eliminating the middle person, and so you're getting a lower rate out of that. But just again, let me reemphasize, don't drive without liability coverage. Now, I want you to understand what a balance sheet is. And I always have students start out, and parents, this is a good thing to do as well, is to have a balance sheet about listing where you are financially. And that means adding up all of your assets on one side, adding up all of your liabilities on the other side, and then subtracting your liabilities from your assets to arrive at what is called your net worth. Now, as young people, oftentimes that net worth is negative. But if you're in school and you're improving yourself and improving your education, that's all right, because you're on the right track, you're going in the right direction. So look at that and figure out what you need to do about your balance sheet. Then it's important to think about your banking, and this is real important as you leave home and go off to college. You want to open a checking account, a savings account, actually before you go to college, so that you learn how to handle that, so that you learn how to balance your account, and you learn how to make sure that that is indeed um, um, a skill that you take with you to college. Because sometimes if you haven't done it before you go to college, you can really mess up and you can really have a hard time. So you want to make sure that you do that. And then the great thing today is online banking. And so online banking, particularly, they will have great accounts for college students, because they'll say, hey, we want to be your first bank, because first banks is sort of like your first kiss. They know that you're going to remember them, and you probably will stick with them. So look into online banks. And the other thing, look into banks where both parents and students can access that, so parents know whether or not you need to put more money in, they know what's going on. And if you're getting money from parents, that's a fair thing to ask of you, is that they would be able to look at your account and be able to help you out, etc. So, and if you're on your own, that's a different thing. But look into that as far as banking is concerned. And then create a budget. It's important to, a budget is such a tool. And a lot of times people think of a budget in a very negative way. They think, oh no, it's a straitjacket. It's just the opposite. It gives you the freedom, because when you use a budget, all of a sudden you know where your money's going. You do not wonder where it went. How do you do it? You start by recording the income and when you receive it. And this is a great time to talk about having a good conversation with your parents and making sure that you're on the same page about what you can expect from them and what they can expect from you. And a lot of times some parents will have students send back, kind of a little spending sheet, so that they know there's no wrong or right way. Just want to make sure that you become aware of where your money's going. So then list all your fixed expenses. You're going to have your dorm fee, your meal ticket fee, things that are due, and then look at your phone fees and things like that. List the variable expenses. That's your entertainment. That's the dining out part. And dining out is a part of college too. Yes, you want to eat. If you have a dining room ticket, you want to eat most of the time in the dining room. But remember that socializing but you just don't want to go out. I know I see students sometimes and they'll just pick up the ticket for everyone. No, no, no. That is not what you want to do. So you want to be able to say, hey, I'm a college student. I can't do that right now. Maybe when I have a job and it's my money, I can, but right now I'm not going to do that. So look at the expenses, and then list any extraordinary expenses, like the insurance payments, when they're going to come due. They may not come due every month. They may be every 6 months, things like that. And the great thing today are there are wonderful budget tracking programs and apps for your smartphones. So look at mint.com is one of my students' favorites. It's one of my favorites. It is a free app and a free software for your computer. And it has pie graphs. It's easy to use. The majority of my students like that. They use it. They also find some of their own apps. They will look on their smartphone, if it's an iPhone or a Droid or Samsung, whatever they're using. They look at the ratings for budget tracking, and they will look and find one that they like that kind of speaks to them, because you're all individual and you want something that's really good and works for you. And so get that going as well. And the next thing would be to realize that you need to have balance. Now, what do you have balance? And I mean, like, let's look at you. Here you are today, you're looking in, learning more about college on College Week Live. And then you have your family, and some of your family is there, and that is great too. And that's a varying degree. And then you are looking toward a career. That's why you're going to college, so that maybe you can find a career. And as you can see, those are varying degrees of involvement. You have 1, 2, 3 degrees. Well, what do you do to achieve balance? The first thing you do, you get your heads together, like y'all are getting together today and you're observing. And you discuss it with your family like you're also doing, and get your heads together there. And then talk to your college professors and your counselors about your career path. And oh my goodness, look at that. That's not at all balanced. The reason is you have to take another step, And that step is you have to actually pull together. Then voila, voila, you have yourself and your family, and you have your college and your career, and everybody is then in balance. Otherwise, someone will take the short end, someone will take the medium, and someone will take the long. Thank you. All right. Okay. Now then, okay. Let's look at next using your magic to save. Now this is a real important thing, to be able to save money. And I remember, well, there are 5 siblings in my family and 3 brothers. I have 1 sister, and my youngest brother, we all went to school and had to drop out and work. None of us went straight to college. None of us were able to pay for it because our parents didn't have the money to pay for it. They had not gone to college. And so we had to work our way through, actually. Well, my youngest brother came to live with me. He dropped out of college after he ran out of money. He said, well, come and live with me, your big sister, and work for my husband and save some money and then go back to college, which he did. And I said, but now what I want you to do is I want you to learn and show me your budgeting, etc., which he did. He did a very good job of it. Well, he learned to save, and so when he graduated from college, his name's Mark, and I said, Mark, I said, what's going on there? And I said, are you saving money? And he said, well, no. He said, I'm not saving money. I said, you need to save. And I said, well, yeah. He said, hold on just a minute. Let me check on this. Let me check. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that we are working here. The reason I stopped is because I'm not hearing from anybody here. Hold on just 1 second. Let me do this. Okay, let's get this figured out. Okay, all I know to do. Wonderful. I wasn't getting anything. I'm so sorry. I wasn't sure this was working at all because I was sending something. Let's keep going. Thank you a lot for letting me hear back from you. Okay, let's go back to saving. Let's go back to my brother Mark. Let's go back to what I was telling you about. I asked him after he finished college, can you save, Mark? Are you saving? And he said, no, I'm not. And I said, you need to save. And so I got him to start saving, and I got him to pick out 2 mutual funds. You can do that. You can pick out a mutual fund and just send $50 a month to many of them, as long as you commit to having it automatically drafted from your checking account. So he did, and he was able to do that for 4 years. And then he met the love of his life, and he called me and he said, sis, I'm getting married, and I was just wondering. He said, I'm wondering about that money that I put away in the mutual fund. We looked, and it just happened to be a good time. He had made it a priority. He had done it regularly on a monthly, he had it automatically done. He had done it regularly, and he had done it for over a year. So he had some money there. And he said, what we're going to do now is we're going to put, he looked at it and it just had doubled in those 4 years. And so he and his bride-to-be, Gail, paid off all the credit cards and started saving 13% of their income. Well, it was just such a good basic, just a basic, that Money Magazine put them on the cover. Now, this is my brother Mark and his wife Gail, because it's just one of those things that if you do the basics, like if you set financial goals, if you use a budget, if you save some of all that you earn, if you have adequate insurance, that keeps you really secure financially. So that worked for them. Now, a good rule of thumb to do is that you would save and do the 10-10-80 rule. And I like to put the 10 before the 80 because it's saying that right off the top you would save 10%, you would share 10% either with your community, your church, whatever you believe in. You would spend the other 80% and live on it. And that really helps you save up acorns for the winter, so they say, because you're putting savings away for later on. If you understand the magic of compound interest, it will be remarkable what that can do for you. And so Einstein himself said it was the most powerful force in the universe was compound interest. And the compound interest is something that can make your money work and help your money work while you're out working. So putting money away and putting it away early, and a lot of you parents who are watching know that you put away money early when your children were young, when they were born, and that's the way they're going to college, is that you're able to help them some because you did have the magic of compounding working with your money. So it's an important concept to understand and put into work. Now, one thing that's real important is the annual credit report. The annual credit report now is free. There are 3 credit bureaus. And that report is something you can get online. You can have it mailed to you. You can call an 800 number. And you just get one from one of the 3 bureaus. And I suggest doing it every 4 months. That way you're self-monitoring and you don't need to subscribe to a monitoring service and pay that monitoring fee. So you'll receive that report in about a month after you ask for it or less. And so it's a good thing to do is to get that free annual report and know what it is. Now, some of you do not even have a credit report yet, but you will. You'll build on that starting with your bank account. There are also educational credit scores. There are reports and there are scores. The scores, the FICO is gold standard of scores, but you have to pay for that. But there are places like creditkarma.com that's very close to the FICO score, and you can go to Credit Karma and get a free score. So that's very, very helpful. Also, credit.com has a credit tool that you can use. It's for free to find out about your score. And Jerry Detweiler, that writes for that particular website, also will answer your questions and has very good information about credit, which is a wonderful financial tool that you need in your financial toolbox. Then Credit Sesame will give you an analysis of your credit. So those are 3 sites that are all free that will help you with your credit score. And parents particularly want to do this. And then young people, what you want to understand is how important it is to protect that score. The score is made up of things like your payment history. If you'll see that that is 35% of your score. That means that have you always paid on time, never been late? Very important to do. And so the good scores, it'll go from 300 to 850. So the higher the better, and if you get anything around 750, it will really be a good score. Why? Why is this score important? Well, one really important reason is that if you even get a loan, it will come from a credit score. The interest that you're going to pay on that loan, the lower the score, the higher the interest you have to pay. The higher your credit score, the lower the interest. You can negotiate. You can actually say, I'm not going to pay that interest because I know I have a good credit score. I'll go shop and get this loan somewhere else. And you have bargaining power because you're being rewarded for using your magic to have a good score. Now, if you go to get an apartment, You may look at the apartment, like it, but they have the right, as long as they run it on everyone who applies for that apartment, to run a credit check on you. So that's why it's important while you're in school to get a student credit card, only one. Use it very carefully, pay it off in 30 days, but begin to build your credit score and your credit history. Also, whether or not you get a job can depend on your credit score. There are several industries, financial industry, a law enforcement industry, that if you have poor scores, you can't get on with them. And so it's important to protect that score and to build a good score as well. And this one's one that will kind of be a gotcha. That is that insurance premiums can be raised if you have a low score. So try to do whatever you need to do to have a good credit score. Now, I like what's happened to software today. You can use software to do your taxes. You can use software to do your budgeting. There's so much good software available that's very intuitive. And Parents Willmaker is a wonderful one that is out that helps you do power of attorneys and wills that are very legal. They hold up in court. And it's just that you don't want to be without these important legal documents. And the software makes it doable and affordable. Let's talk about thrift. Thrift is really an important thing to do, particularly when you're a college student. That's one of your thriftiest times because you want to have a good time, but a lot of times you just don't have the money to have it like you really want to have it. So it's important to use your library. Libraries today, and particularly public libraries too, will order CDs, they have DVDs you can check out, all kind of things that you don't have to buy yourself. As long as you're patient and don't have to have it immediately when it gets on the market, they'll eventually get it in and you can use it. But whether or not you're buying designer boots or going to Target and buying your boots, you know, you can get some really good looking clothing for very reasonable prices. So use both your school and your public libraries and buy smart, buy thrifty. You don't have to be cheap, but you do need to be wise about the way you spend your money and what you spend it on. Textbooks can be a real big burden when you're buying things. So I would recommend that you use all other means to buy your textbooks. Half.com is a great place to both buy and sell textbooks. When I was working on my PhD, I used Half.com to both purchase books and to sell them back. It was a big help. Go to your bookstore early. Now, I know in Arkansas, we have to give our book list to the stores, and so they have it. So they have the opportunity to go online to buy it, to buy from other sources where you don't have, you know what the professor is going to require, and that gives you an option to find less expensive ways. So there's also swap places. You can use Facebook, Craigslist, other ways to really save money on your textbooks because those are big expenses when you go to college. Save on gas, getting back and forth to home, and taking the car to go to entertainment and stuff. You really need to look at ways to make a list and not be in your car all the time, or else share. Ride with other people, let them ride with you, but don't always be the person that's doing all the driving because it's going to really add up. Another thing to save you money on gas is to have air in your tires, make sure that they're aired up correctly, and change the air filter in your car as well. It'll use less gasoline that way and save you money all the way around. Now, let's talk about investments and the difference it makes to use savings. And the first thing you do with investments, you either loan your money out, which is the safest thing to do, or you're going to actually own investments. And the way you would do that is that for savings, you would have your money market accounts, your CDs. For income, you'd have bonds, income funds, annuities, things like this. Those are the first things you do for savings and investments. The next thing would be growth, and you would have like stocks, stock mutual funds, or ETFs, exchange traded funds. That's where the money is pooled and you get a proportionate amount. That's what you're buying, is a proportionate amount of that. And then you can speculate when you're investing. You can buy collectibles, precious metals, raw land, types of things like that. Now then, you want to build wealth, and one way to do that is to start early, save consistently, and keep your costs low. Now, as a college student, you're not always expected to be able to have savings and building wealth, but you want to think about that and prepare for that as soon as you graduate, that you start very early putting money away and having an emergency fund and having savings as well. And when you're doing that, you want to think about what is important to do is that, for example, let's say that you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 investment dollars. The first thing that you would do with your money is that you would actually put it in something very safe, like I said, like a savings account, like a place to put your emergency fund, like a place that you can know is guaranteed at the bank with federal deposit insurance so that you can maintain your 1, your 2, your 3, your 4, your 5, and your 6 investment dollars. Now the next thing you would do is you might buy some savings bonds, some corporate bonds. When people are in the high income tax brackets, they buy municipal bonds because what they're trying to do is diversify and maintain their 1, their 2, their 3, their 4, their 5, and their 6 investment dollars. And then the next thing, you're ready to do growth that we talked about. You can buy some stocks, you can buy some stock mutual funds, you can buy some stock and bond mutual funds or some exchange traded funds, but you're diversifying and you're trying to maintain your 1, your 2, your 3, your 4, your 5, and your 6 investment dollars. And last but not least, let's speculate a little. Let's say, okay, we're going to get some precious metals, some real estate, maybe some collectibles, but what we're trying to do, we're trying to maintain our 1, our 2, our 3, our 4, our 5, and our 6 investment dollars. And that's what diversification will help you do, is end up like you started, because when one area is down, another area is up, and you should do very well as well. Thank you. Okay, now then I want to talk about some trustable resources. One very trustable resource is Beverly Harzog. She is all about credit. Anything you want to know about credit, and the great thing about her is that if you go to beverlyharzog.com, that's H-A-R-Z-O-G, beverlyharzog.com, she'll actually answer your questions. She's very busy. She doesn't get immediately back, but she'll get back to you. And it'll help you if you're trying to get the best travel card, the best student card, all those things. Another very trustable resource is Jane Bryant Quinn. Jane Bryant Quinn has written for years, and she's very trustable. She hadn't sold out to anyone, and very good information that's unbiased. A gentleman that writes for college students and just about investing in personal finance is Eric Tyson. And he's, again, a person who doesn't take money for his writing. I mean, he's a journalist, he's a financial journalist. He sells his books, of course, but he hasn't sold out to anybody. And so another very trustable resource is Liz Weston. And Liz wrote the 10 Commandments of Money, and she did a good job with that. And so, again, these are very trustable resources that I just wanted you to know about. And you will notice, too, I have a book here. Beverly Harzog just came out this year with her book called Confessions of a Credit Junkie. And it's just full of wonderful things about how to use credit cards, how to get them paid down. And if you've ever seen the movie, or it's sort of, she liked this particular author who did Confessions of a Shopaholic. And so I think, but Beverly's funny. She's fun. She's fun. She just speaks in plain English. So I recommend her. Here are some other very good resources. Consumer Reports and Kiplinger's. Consumer Reports put out Money Advisor, Consumer Reports magazines, and the good thing about them is that they don't accept advertising. So they actually get the products and they test the products, and you can trust what they write and what they tell you. The other thing is Kiplinger's, and Kiplinger's is a magazine, and they put out a newsletter, and it's very trustable. It's been around a long time, and I really enjoy them as a very trustable resource. And you'll see on this particular one, they have the college rankings that matter the most. And so, again, it's important. And your school library is going to carry these. If they don't, or if your public library doesn't, make sure you ask them to get them in. And if it's anything that the library knows your community will use, they're very good about ordering these types of publications. This is a very important new agency that's out, and it's called the Consumer Finance Protection, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and the CFPB. Now, this is the first time we have ever had a financial watchdog involved with a personal finance thing. So they really do deal with unscrupulous lenders, payday loans, things that are really bad, fees on credit cards that are excessive. And it's just great to have somebody who's kind of looking out for us, for the consumer advocates. So that's a great place, and you can go online and communicate with them as well. Now let's get to the passion part, because this is what's going to make you really enjoy your life and really enjoy whatever money you make and how you manage that money. So what is your passion? Have you thought about that? It's important to think about. Now, I had a presidential appointment, and with that appointment, I would go to Washington and learned a lot about things, and I was going to testify for the House Small Business Committee, and so it's going to be my husband and mine's 20th wedding anniversary. Well, we were invited to spend the night at the White House, and which is really great, but we had two surprises that we didn't know about. And the first surprise was that we were going to get to spend the night in the Lincoln bedroom. The second surprise was that the guest across the hall that was going to have dinner with us and breakfast the next morning was none other than Steven Spielberg. And so when he got there, he said, we met and we visited, and he asked me what I was doing, and I said I was testifying before the House Small Business Committee the next day. And he said, and I said, I'm nervous about it. And he said, well, you know, you seem very passionate. When I told him about what the council was doing for small business, etc., he said, let me tell you something. He said, you know, when I made that movie, E.T., and I said, well, yes, you remember that phone home, E.T.? Remember that one? Well, he said, friends who saw that could not believe that I didn't have children. He said, but I had such a passionate desire to have children that I think it came through in that movie. And he said, so later, he said, between my marriages and adoption, we ended up with 5 children. And so I had a new passion, and that passion was to make a legacy to my children. So he said, I created Schindler's List. I said, I did Schindler's List as a legacy to my children. And then he told us also that he'd adopted an African-American child who had been a crack baby, very good mind, but stunted growth. And he said that they were going to adopt a second African-American child so that the first one would have someone to do things with and be involved and immersed in his own culture, etc. And so they did. So they ended up with 7 children altogether. And then last year, when I saw Lincoln, the movie Lincoln, I realized that Steven Spielberg had a new passion to leave a legacy to his African-American children as well. And so it was a great experience. And this is Steven and my husband, the guardian of my humility, Guy Campbell. And then this is me jumping on the Lincoln bed. And the reason I share this is because I think we should have fun wherever we go, and when you go to college, I want you to have fun. I just want you to be careful how you do it. And by the way, that was really, I didn't really jump up and down where I would break the slats. But anyway, that was kind of a posed picture. It was safe, but it sure was fun. So let's talk about a really exciting area, and that's entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is really busting out all over now. I think the recession really made a difference, and people realized that, you know, I need to kind of think about maybe starting my own business, and so they did, and in droves. And so you find wonderful student departments and small business development centers. Now they're all over the United States, and we have an incredible one in Arkansas. And in full disclosure, I chair the advisory council of that Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center. And but here's what people don't realize. You will get technical assistance from them that's paid for already with your tax dollars, business advising, low-cost training. And so the SBDCs in whatever state you're in can be located by going to that URL, the asbdc-us.org. And you can find one locally. It's people really get excited when they find them because all of the services that they do take. Now let's talk about the takeaways from today. First of all, know who you are, know what you want, know whom you want to be with, and what you want to do in your life. And that'll take a while. That's okay. You want to have a means to save, to ensure, those final four, the financial four, remember how important those are. Live below your means, save some of all that you earn, make sure you have the proper insurance and the wise use of credit. You want to commit to do what it takes to achieve what you want. You also want to realize that when you tap your magic and use your own magic, you will be rewarded. So make sure that you do think about, look inside and say what's important to me, and then what am I willing to do to get that. And one thing you are doing, you're involved in College Week Live, and so you're looking at your options and you're going over those. Make sure you communicate well with your parents as well. And then I think it's important to realize that, school's just never out. It's important to realize that what you need to do is get a magazine, a newspaper, and not only do you want to read it. Now, I do like USA Today, very user-friendly to read and to go through, and just digest the information, because it keeps you up to date, it keeps you on the cutting edge. Oh, and I know what y'all are thinking, I wonder what Dr. Mack is doing. Well, it looks to me like she's carrying that newspaper, and that's why I have fun with magic. That's why I believe in it, because when you see illusions, you think you see something, but you're really not. And actually, though, I've had people come up and they'll say, Dr. Mack, let me tell you, the reason I thought this was a good illusion, because I thought I actually heard sounds. Listen to this. Pretty good illusion, isn't it? Yes, they would say that I thought I heard sounds of tearing newspaper. Now, again, here's the thing about illusions. When you use your magic, it'll be great. Yep, it's more than that, they said. I actually thought I saw pieces. Now, look at that. They actually thought that they saw pieces of torn newspaper. But the magic does come from you. You really can do it. And I just really hope that this paper goes back together. And well, voila, yes, it did. It went right back together. And as you can see, the USA Today is right there, just like it was before. So again, if you'll use your magic, if you will, let me pull this chair back here. You can do wonders and have a good time and a good life and make magic with your money. And now then, I'm going to entertain questions from you. I would like to hear from you and see what's on your mind. So let's look at these. Okay. All right. Very good. Let's have some questions here. We've got one. Hello, Shauna. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh, good. All right. Let's see what we got. Okay. All right. This is a great question. Thank you. Tiara says, what should I do if I become a victim of identity theft? When I tried to get my credit report for free online, it said my report looked funny and would not let me access it. I have never applied for credit before. Okay, well, I don't know what that message means, but here's what I know is that you need to call the credit bureau and find out exactly what they have. Here's the thing you do if you have been a victim of identity theft. You want to get a police report, because they have to show you, the credit bureau has to show you exactly what they have on you. And so, because there could be a mistake, it could be a typo, it could be something else. So make sure, but if you do get a police report, you can actually freeze your credit indefinitely, which means you can thaw your credit, but you just have to go through an extra security step to do that. So that is what you would do, is that you would make sure that one thing I wanted to say too is that you don't really need to get a pay for a monitoring service. You can monitor yourself if you'll get one report from each of the 3 bureaus every 4 months. That means you're monitoring it year-round yourself to see if anything's on there. As well, like I said, you can freeze your credit. Now, as a young person, you may not want to freeze it, but if you just to be secure, you can do that. So that answers that question. Okay, I have another question here. He says, oh, this is about credit too. It says, my girlfriend is, Darius says, my girlfriend is, has a low credit score. She's using my credit now. Said she's going to stop her spending, but she hasn't slowed down. Oh my goodness. Okay, let me tell you what, Darius. This may not get better. Now, one thing that's great on college campuses today is that majority of all the campuses have counseling. They have psychiatric counseling. And if your girlfriend has a spending problem, then she may need just some counseling. It may be about some other insufficient area in her life. But the other thing is, when you, like, people say they're going to get married, they're going to get a blood test. I'll tell you another test to get is pull a credit score on the person you're going with, whether it's a male or female, to see if they do have bad credit, because you don't want to be saddled with that. You don't want to start out a relationship with that. The number one reason that people get divorced is over money problems. So try to eliminate anything that you can before that time. Okay, that's a good one. Let's have another question. Let's see. All right. Here we go. Mario in Virginia says, all right, I'm beginning to, I sometimes get depressed because students all around me seem to have the latest gadgets and fads, and I can't do that right now. Well, let me tell you something, Mario. A lot of times what appears to be is not always what's really there. A lot of people who appear to have money have really overspent, and a lot of people who don't appear to have money have a lot of money. I would recommend that you read the book The Millionaire Next Door, or just read a synopsis of it, because what it will tell you is that the reason there are millionaires next door is because they don't buy the biggest house, they don't buy the latest cars. They know that over a lifetime they save hundreds of thousands of dollars on buying used good quality cars. They don't buy the biggest houses because where the grass is greener, the water bills are higher. So they're very careful about what they do, and they're very careful about how they spend their money. So don't have envy over somebody seeming to have it. Wait till you can afford it, live within your means, and that time will come, and then you won't be saddled with debt, which creates stress. And so that would be the good thing for you to do. Okay, let's see if we have another one here. Oh, yeah. Oh, Zach from Colorado says, how can I get more spending money from home? All right, I'll tell you a good way that my students have told me this. I didn't tell them. They said they would do, I have them do a daily spending diary on everything they spend for 1 month. And what they've said is that they will share with their parents where their money's actually going and showing them, I had to buy this, I had to buy that. And as long as the majority of it is for school required things, and they see there's just not enough spending money there for them to have any real flexibility or fun, parents have increased their allowance because they show them that these were things that they were required to buy. And so that's another good way to do that. Any other questions? Okay. Let's see here. We've got, all right. Tatiana, I need to sell my car that my parents gave me when I turned 16. How's the best way to know its value? That's a great question. And I'll give you 3 websites that are very good. One would be kbb.com. That stands for Kelley Blue Book. Used to, you had to go into the bank to get that book. Now it's just online, kbb.com. It'll give you, put in the information about your car. It'll give you the current value of it. Another one is Edmunds, EDMONDS.com. Another one is NADA Guide, National Association Dealers Association, Automobile Dealers Association Guide, the NADAguide.com. Now you combine what those 3 sites say about your car that your parents gave you when you were 16 that you now need to turn to try to get something else for the college, then it'll give you a price and you'll know how to bargain. And that's a big help, let me tell you. That is just a very big help. So uh, if there are no other questions, let me see if there's anything else here. Okay. All right. I've got Bethany from Chicago, and Bethany says, okay, you talked about goals. How important are they? Bethany, they are so strong. They're the things that help you use a budget. They're the things that it makes sense to use a budget. If it doesn't, you go into a store and why not buy whatever you see? But if you know you have goals, then it gives you that little safety valve on your spending to say, you know what? I know they've got a whole display of these items, but I don't really need it. And so I'm really not going to get it because I know in my mind what I really want is I either want to attend a certain concert or I want a certain electronic item that I'm going to save my money for that because that's me. That's who I am. That's what I want for my goals. So goals are really important. That's a great, great question, Bethany from Chicago. Okay. And all right, I think we've just about done it. If there are no other questions, do I have any other questions? I'm open for that. If not, I think we're going to sign off, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. I hope I've shared tips and tricks that will help you do magic with your money. And remember, the magic comes from you, and you can do it. It's been my pleasure to be with you today. I'm Dr. Marianne Campbell. I teach at the University of Central Arkansas, and I'm here on campus of the University of Arkansas at Little Rock using the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center's equipment. So it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm signing off.